Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Shuey. I am the founder and CEO of Happily, the world's largest and most diverse and coolest and weirdest and funnest and hopefully happiest network of live and virtual event specialists. And every once in a while, I come onto LinkedIn Live and to YouTube to introduce y'all to a member of my community, a colleague and a friend that I really admire, and we just have a conversation about things that are like happening in this wild world. And today I'm really excited because I'm introducing y'all to actually like a new hire at Happily, and I'm introducing you to Kristi Casey Sanders. For any of you in the event space, like, you might already know her because she's very popular and she deserves all of it. I am a huge fan, and you'll find out why. Kristi is like one of those that has lived like many lives, and like you just know she's gonna live many, many more. And I'm so excited that she's with us at Happily. And so, anyways, without further ado, I'm gonna bring Kristi up to say hello. Hi.
Hi. I like your two-handed wave. You're like,
Oh.
I have too much joy to contain in just one hello. No, hello, everyone.
It's like the Asian thing. Hi, and like do the double like hearts, and like I'm also like not one of, like, you have to be like really cool to only do like one V, and like, but I'm like the dork version where it's like always two.
I love it. Double happiness.
Yeah, and like, wait, tell us where you're located, because you're in Georgia, but you're in like it's a city that I cannot pronounce.
Yes, and my husband likes to say that if you say it fast enough, it does not sound dirty. So I live in Sawteenacoochee, Georgia.
Okay, wait, I never heard the coochie part until just now. Now that you call it out, Sawteenacoochee. Well, that's really cool. What's it like there?
So it's really beautiful. It's like when people imagine small town America, where if there's a storm, people call on you and make sure you're okay, or if you need help getting to the store, they'll pick you up and they'll drive you, or if you pass somebody, they'll say hi, or if you're walking down the street, they'll stop their car and just talk for a bit. It gets it's very Mayberry in a way. Like if there are any fans of the Andy Griffith Show out there.
Do you like actually know the names of your neighbors?
I do. I know the names of my neighbors. I've been invited to do wine yoga with them. They have
Wine
a vineyard.
yoga? What's wine yoga?
I guess it's where middle-aged women drink wine and do yoga.
I mean, your neighbors sound awesome.
Yeah.
No wonder you know their names.
Yeah, and so the neighborhood that we're in, it used to be a summer camp, and in the 70s they decommissioned the summer camp and sold off the lots, and so all of my most of my neighbors bought the property in the 70s, which means that they're now in their 70s and 80s. And we even have a 90-year-old veteran of the Battle of Normandy who lives in my neighborhood, who got the French Legion of Honor medal last year.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's really insane. Like, so there's a lake and there's boats that you can just go down and borrow. There's a stable with like horses that I walk by all the time, and I've gotten to know the horse owners. Sometimes I see them on the trail. Sometimes you'll just be walking around and people will be fishing, and you talk to them about what they're using for their. It's just, that's what Sawteenacoochee is for me. It's this amazing community, and then down the road there's the Sawteenacoochee Cultural Center, which is amazing. They've got a pottery museum. They've got rock concerts, which have now turned virtual. But what I thought was so funny is when I started going there, my daughter started doing plays there. The woman doing the curtain speech sounded so familiar. And I realized it's because when I was growing up in Roswell, which is a suburb of Atlanta, I used to hear her name on the Album 88, that was the college station, the Album 88 concert calendar every day. She was always playing some rock and roll show at the Cotton Club or the Point or the Little Five Points pub. And so what I discovered is that my little town is where all of the punks and rebels and rock and rollers that I used to follow, like in the theater and the performance art and the music scene, this is where they've retired to.
Oh my gosh, we discovered that. That's like,
Yeah.
I was like, everything that you're saying, I just feel like I know so many people who are like shopping for new towns, and they're like all want to basically live where you live. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, they should definitely come, because the other thing that's great too is that the houses are affordable. So you can have a couple of acres of land, and it's not break the bank. So it's really, it's amazing.
Amazing. That is amazing. So okay, well, tell us, I want to know like all about you. And I know, like I was saying before, I was like, you've lived so many lives, so I can't hear like everything maybe, but tell us as much as you want to tell us. Like, how did you get into events? I know you're such a cool person, and like we bonded because I was like, oh, we met at, so we, just a little backstory for y'all. Like, Kristi and I met at, ILEA, in Minneapolis. We met at Minneapolis. We shared a small table of 3 at an event.
When Eileen was accepting an award, she bumped our table and got some kind of green smoothie on your really beautiful dress.
Oh yeah, there's that whole cucumber soup dress. You were there for that, and you were like totally unscathed and fine. Just like, oh, it was all over my. It was fine.
We got you all cleaned up, and you were brilliant on the panel.
Oh, no. Yeah, I know. I smelled like cucumber like all day long, which you know what? At least it wasn't like ketchup or something, which I would be really upset about. I was like, oh, it's just like I'm in a spa. I don't know. But yeah, we met, but then when we met, we really started like connecting and like talking about like our love for our love for learning and opening up learning for opportunities for event planners and people in the event industry. But also, you told me that you are like a sci-fi writer, which I was like, okay, wait, now we friends. So how did you end up in events?
Yeah, so when I was going through school, the only thing I really wanted to do was to be an artist, specifically a performing artist. And anybody who works as a performing artist, you know that it's not the kind of career where you have measurable steps of achievement. You either are a hero or a zero. And even if you have achieved some level of success, whenever that job ends, then you still have to hustle for the next opportunity. And so, like a lot of teenagers or 20-year-old kids, I thought, I'm going to be famous, and then that's just going to be my career. And my dad insisted that I needed to learn some other skills in addition to that, because the 1 year that I was only on the payroll for theater, I think I made $9,000. So and there's so much work that you do that's unpaid. I'm so glad he insisted on that. And I actually got a background as a graphic designer, and then later as a writer. And so I found creative ways to support myself, because at that time, being as self-centered as I was, I did not have a service mentality. And so I would have been a horrible waiter or bartender, or, a lot of the caterer, a lot of those jobs. So in pursuit of this performance career, I found myself getting really disillusioned. I would win roles like Maggie the Cat in Cat and Hot Tin Roof and get amazing write-ups in New York's papers, and then still wouldn't have an agent, and still couldn't get a paying job, and still had to go to humiliating commercials. And it was really soul destroying. And I started playing rugby because one of the directors I worked with, I was doing shows like Moliere at 10 o'clock at night in a storefront in the Lower East Side, and really glamorous work like that. And she was a rugby player, had been subbing in on Sevens games with the men's side, but couldn't find a women's team that she liked. And she had met a couple of other women who were recent graduates, or who also didn't like the one option that was in New York City. And so she connected me with these people, and we started to talk about it. And they were like, you can't waste those shoulders, and you were built for playing rugby. And so I helped found this rugby football team called the Village Lions Rugby Football Club, the women's side. So the men were celebrating their 10th anniversary. We came on, we just celebrated the 20th anniversary this year. But in playing with them and kind of discovering this incredible supportive community of women and how far I could push past my limits, I ended up getting injured. And so then I started taking improv classes and ended up getting cast by Boom Chicago Comedy Theater in Amsterdam. And one of their divisions was corporate entertainment. So that was my intro into events. So kind of footnote, at the time, my cast, in that cast of players that I was in, Jordan Peele was there. He went on later to win Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for Get Out. And somebody who was always there because he had just left was Seth Meyers, who now has his own show. And one of my first roommates was Rebecca Drysdale, who just resigned her position from being the head writer for the Jimmy Fallon show because she couldn't write any more Trump sketches. And so there are all these people who I got to interact with and kind of pass in the night and or work with intensely, who are now reshaping what entertainment and comedy means. And that's so exciting to me to kind of see names on shows like New Girl or like that are people that I know or that I've met or that I've hung out with. So I came back,
and they're like really cool people. Like I saw some documentary or interview about specifically, I think like Seth Meyers and like that crew back in that time when they you must have been in this crew, and like how cool that was, where they were just always just couldn't stop. Like it was like a nonstop, like they were just living like the sort of like just living in this like huge joke, I guess.
Well, so what it was like is you took the funniest, smartest people in your friend group, right? Mm-hmm. Who also were the biggest partiers. And then you sent them to Amsterdam where everything was legal. Your job was to show up at 4:00 in the afternoon, maybe do a rehearsal and then do a show, and then have like VIP passes to go dance all night.
That's so cool.
Like when they were auditioning, and my audition was 2 weeks after September 11th. So on September 28th, 2001, I knew that I had been cast and I was going to Amsterdam, and I was like, yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, because like the city was still on fire. And I just remember calling people from Amsterdam who, like my friends in New York, and I'd be like, hey, has it stopped burning yet? And they're like, I mean, not until well into the winter. And so it really was a magic place. And I wish that I had been in Seth's cast. Like I came in to replace his brother, Josh. But Seth came back for New Year's that year. And then we had a 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary party. And I got to hang out with him and Amber Ruffin, who the two of them in this whole election cycle have just been giving me life. Like I feel like they're just friends. They're telling me it's going to be okay. And I really need that. But yeah, it was a really incredible creative place. Seth actually created the corporate entertainment division. So a lot of the scripts that we would use in the shows were written by Seth, and they were, I mean, so this is the bar for corporate entertainment, right? It's basically like a Mad Libs.
I'm
so
like,
hey, like Yenka and Yelp. And Yelp says this, and Yenka says this, insert CEO's name here. And Yelp says this, insert product line here. And so basically they would customize using these scripts. And then we would just go in and do the corporate entertainment. And I just remember my introduction to event professionals was they were the person we had to check in with after we got off of the van or the train. They would stick us in a room. Sometimes it was like a coat room. Sometimes it was a hotel room where we'd all just hang out together for hours. And then our writer included a meal, and it was almost always this broodje met kaas. It's like this really, you couldn't bake a loaf of bread that had less moisture in it. It's like
like a cracker?
It was just, no, and it was large. So it was like large and tasteless and dry. And then it would have like the barest minimum of mayonnaise, like the barest minimum of mayonnaise, and then like one strip of cheese. And that was, And then if you got one with ham, it would have like one strip of ham and one strip of cheese. And that was our meal for most of the corporate shows. And then you go out, you do a tight 30 minutes while no one was paying attention to you because either they were overloaded from the day or they were eating their meal. And then you left. And then you could go dancing. But that was the corporate gig.
Oh my God. Would they go dancing with you or like only the cool kids?
No. So we didn't invite them. No. We would go.
So how did you end up? How did you, like the cool kid, like end up here with the corporate people?
I blame my family, actually. I blame my family and I blame love.
Is your husband in the business?
So no. So what happened was I realized pretty quickly that I did not have the career in comedy that I thought. Like I had been pinballing around, right? As an actor, I was primarily a serious actress. But I was not satisfied with the lack of control over my own career. And a lot of times when you are cast, it's really about the surface. It's not about the talent. And it just erodes at you. It doesn't matter. Even if you're not conventionally pretty, every casting direction like tends to revolve around whether or not someone finds you desirable. And that can be exhausting. And then also too, there's the other kind of ugly underside of things that were exposed with the Me Too movement. And this was like 20 years before that. So it wasn't a very satisfying thing. I came back from Amsterdam and decided not to contact, Second City or Mad TV. A lot of the people at the time were going directly to one or the other. And I just felt like for my mental health, comedy was not the best choice for me. And my family always had publications. My grandfather had been one of the first sales reps for Ebony magazine. And then he had started to buy titles of his own. And so they were really awesome magazines like Waste Management News and Real Estate Investor and things that, gosh, I wish we still owned so I could write for them. Instead, my dad had titles that were visitor magazines and things like Where Georgia, which was kind of like a where to go in Atlanta to do things. And he also was the official publication of the Fox Theater. And so when I came back to Atlanta, I was going to stay here for 6 months. I was going to get really, really thin. And then I was going to go to LA and then I was going to try to break into film. And what happened instead was I really enjoyed writing. I really enjoyed, they put me on kind of like a business beat. They put me on travel beat. They took me on entertainment. And so when Wicked premiered at the Fox Theater, I got to interview Gregory Maguire and I had read his book in college and just his process on how he worked on taking a novel to the stage and got to talk with, Goulet, Robert Goulet. And then he sent me Christmas cards every year after that.
What? Did they have like, were they like, did they have like snowflakes?
No.
Or were they like the landscape with like in the country?
No, they were the best. And I wish this was 4 houses ago and I wish I still had them. I still hold out faith that one day I'm going to open an old Christmas box from one of our moves and find them. He sent me 2 and then he passed away. God rest his soul. And, but they were amazing. It was basically, it'd be one illustration or photo of him and his wife. 1 year it was photos, 1 year it was illustrations. Him and his wife in fancy dress. And then on the inside of the card, it was them in a different fancy dress. So it'd be like
amazing.
Amazing.
Adorable.
So amazing. So one of the publications that we started while I was there was called Plan Your Meetings. And at the time, it was the practical guide to meeting and event planning, which is a mouthful. So I worked with them for a while. And, after being in Atlanta for about 6 months, I ended up meeting my husband, who at a Maverick filmmakers party, he was an actor. And I was doing 2 back-to-back shows. And one of the young women I was working with said, "You look too cute to just go home after the show. What are you doing?" And so she taught me. Yeah. Yes. So she talked me into going to, because she kept on saying, and she was a little bit younger than I was. So I was laughing at the way she was describing everything. She's like, we have to go. There's this thing called the Dailies Project in Atlanta. And Dan Bush and Frederick Lopez and Franklin Lopez and like some of the other people like that are now kind of subversive filmmakers or horror people. So like this was kind of at the time, this was like a really interesting collective film project. And so she's like, there's this Maverick filmmakers party and we have to go. So we went and there was this guy there and he was super cute. And I made a really bad joke that he didn't respond to. And so I was kind of like, he doesn't like me. But then throughout the night, he kept on being near me. And eventually I was talking to my friends and he's like scraped his elbow against my back. So I was like, excuse you. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Did I bump into you? I was like,
Is he shy?
He's very shy. And I was like, did you bump into me? Turn around. Let me show you what you did. And then that was it. We were able to break the ice. And so I asked him what his name was. He's like, oh, we already met. And I was like, when? And then I remembered the week prior, there's this great tavern in Atlanta called Manuel's Tavern. It's where if you don't know where to find your friends after you finish doing a show, you go and they're probably drinking there. And that was like an assumption that I'd had from like being there 10 years earlier. But I went one night and yeah, I knew people. I was able to kind of connect with them. And there was this guy staring at me from this other table all night. And every time because I don't like usually when you stare back at a guy, he then does something weird with his tongue and it's gross.
Weird. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So he was staring at me and I like, he wouldn't make eye contact though, every time I'd look back at him. So I realized that he was sitting with some former roommates of mine from the last time before I went to New York. And so I introduced myself and then I waited for him to say something and he said nothing. So then I was like, screw this guy. Okay. You've been staring at me all night and you can't. So a week later, his thought process was, oh my God, it's getting late. I got to talk to her. And like the best he could come up with is scraping his elbow, but it worked. So
like,
yeah. So guys, you don't have to be slick.
No, it's better if you're not.
Put yourself out there. Yeah. So because of him, he had
get your elbows out.
Yeah. So he had a really small boy. He was 6 at the time and he didn't want to go anywhere and leave his son. So if I was going to have a future with him, I needed to be where he was. So it wasn't until Meeting Professionals International purchased Plan Your Meetings and me joining that team became part of the sale that we actually went anywhere. And by that point, Lucky was 18, so we could go. But yeah, so that's how I ended up with MPI. And then you and I met.
Wow, that's wild.
It's super wild.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well, they're like super lucky to have you. And I mean, I feel like I'm really lucky that you joined Happily, and I still am like, how did this happen? Why? Like, I don't know. I'm having serious imposter syndrome over here because you're just amazing. And yeah.
So I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why and I'll tell you why Happily. And hi, Dolly. Dahlia. I love her.
She was my once too. I love Dahlia.
Yeah. So what's really important to me, especially as I get older, is aligning the work that I do with a cause that I believe in, with people who I enjoy being around. Because during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of workshops, especially with people I had collaborated with artistically. So doing dance workshops with Celeste Miller, or doing acting classes with Lane Savadov, who directed me on Cat and Mountain Rift 20 years ago. And I've remembered how much fun it was to have that gang, to have that group of creative, freewheeling spirits behind you where you just are in kind of chaos and you figure it out. And then also too, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish at MPI. I helped them create an academy that produces amazing thought leadership. And it's in really great hands with Jesse States right now. And I, helped their chapter leaders and helped them, get organized and kind of started new conversations with chapter champions in Africa and India and China and the amazing group of people in Latin America who are starting chapters and kind of getting that process together. And, that team's in really great shape and to kind of continue the growth and to continue the support and the education of the leaders. And then, establishing the communities and helping people find their way into MPI and help find their people and help, just kind of, you had mentioned earlier in a conversation we had offline about how it's not curation that's the future, but it's co-creation. And so for the past 2 years, really establishing these communities and empowering them to create materials and resources and blogs and webinars. And so I feel like that's all in really great shape and they can continue on without me there. But I love Happily, like the idea of a diverse, inclusive environment where people can be happy and getting the industry back to work, right? Being able to reskill a workforce and redeploy them in ways that, are responsible and more sustainable and helping other companies make the pivot from, if you have a bingo card, you can now take a shot. I said the word. I love that whole ethos. And then I also too, I love being of service and I love making things better. And you have such a great spirit about you and you have such a great vision. And you really bring people along. And so I like the idea of making things easier for you and to kind of clear some of the blocks out of the way so you can focus on what you're passionate about and what you're good at. And then let me kind of block and tackle the other things is really satisfying.
You come at a time where like, I have to be honest, it's just like, I've been so like, it's been so hard to like do all the things and like get, it's just been devastating in the event industry overall, and just like managing like, how can I like help as many people as possible, like move into that pivot, but then watching also people like just not be willing to, willing to go virtual has been really tough, like emotionally tough. And then, like our events that we work on, our events are always tough, but now like, we've been doing a lot of them. And I feel like when I've been so overwhelmed that it hasn't been like the happiest place ever to like work in. And like, even just like, and it is not that hard. I actually think to like turn a work environment into one that's like just feeling stressed and pressured into one that's like full of joy. And like you exhibited that today where you're like, let's start our meetings this way, where we're like, do a little like tutor, do like our own horn. And like, everyone just like instantly starts like laughing immediately. And like, I don't know, I'm so thankful that you're here and you understand, like, it's not just, I think especially for like people that are in Happily that are, they all work for themselves. We all work for ourselves. Like we're here to just have a great life and to do things that we love and to enjoy that process. It is like, I think in these times and with all the like rapid growth that the company is going through, it's really difficult. And so I'm so thankful that you're here with us to help us through that.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to it. I really enjoy, having lived in Amsterdam, having traveled a lot by myself. I miss being connected to people in different areas of the world. And so I love that we have a team that's in the Americas and Asia and being able to kind of connect with that. I love the idea of kind of being able to look at where the gaps are or where the challenges are and what are the opportunities or what are some of the solutions that I can bring to the table. And yeah, just easing the anxiety, because event professionals, like they're not sitting on yachts chilling and just like counting down the days since they retire. A lot of them are in a situation where they feel like they have to hustle until they die. And so if I can be part of the solution for helping them build a safety net and for helping them take some of the anxiety out of shifting their skill set from on-site events to digital event production, then that's super exciting.
Totally. Well, I mean, I can't wait for everyone to get to meet you. And in case I didn't mention, like Kristi is our head of operations and customer success. So everybody on all sides is going to get to like have an interaction with Kristi, which is really exciting. I'm excited for y'all. So like, she's just so like this and so much fun all the time. Kristi, I end, we're out of time, but I do end like all of these conversations like with a little game.
Oh.
And so, well, first of all, like, sorry, this is a random side thing. Is Casey your middle name, or is it like your?
Okay, so that's, yeah. So it's kind of like Hillary Rodham Clinton. Like, it's not a hyphenated last name, but it used to be my maiden name. So Kristi Casey Sanders is my full name, but I loved Kristi Casey. I didn't want to get rid of Lee. And then I loved Casey, and and this is the thing, I didn't get married until I was in my 30s. So I had a career, I had published books, I had, lots of material out in social media or that was published under my maiden name. And I didn't want to then all of a sudden people to be like, who's Christy Sanders? Or have to establish my artistic career under a different identity. So the Kristi Casey Sanders is just to create a continuum between the work I accomplished before I married and the work I accomplished after I married, while still not complicating things for myself, where like registering my daughter for school and them being like, why do you have different names? So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I married a hoe, so like, which my brother like likes to remind me of like every day.
Right.
So, and that's really great. Okay, so that's cool. All right. So, well, funnily enough, I mean, I asked you because like the game is really like around your name, and so I'm going to show you. So, actually, I looked up Christy Sanders. And like on LinkedIn, and I was like, who is Christy Sanders? And I uncovered a couple of Christys, and actually there was a bunch of them. But what I decided to do was to show you 3 Christy Sanders, all Christy Sanders, but one of them ends with an I.
Yeah.
Like yourself, right?
Yeah.
One of them with a Y, one of them with an IE. And your job is to guess which one is which.
Oh, okay.
Easy enough, right?
Right.
All right. So here we go. Christy I, Christy Y, and Christy IE. Who do you think?
So Christy I think is on the far right.
And why do you think that?
Because I think I've run into her before.
Oh, really?
Or like, well, I know Kristi Casey. Like there's a Kristi Casey who's a bodybuilder and a Kristi Casey who's a Marilyn Monroe impersonator. And the Marilyn Monroe impersonator, we had a private message with each other because she was jealous that I got our Twitter handle first. So every once in a while, like you'll run into people with the same name because you fight over the same social media handles.
Totally.
Yeah, but I think Christy with an I is on the right.
Okay.
I think Christy with a Y is on the left and IE is in the middle.
Okay, why is IE in the middle?
No idea.
Okay.
Well, actually, you know what? So when I was in school, there were a lot of Christys because it was the dominant age of Christy Brinkley and a book called Christy, which was a really popular miniseries. I read the 738-page Christy novel, which my mother said was the inspiration for naming me Christy, only to find out that she had just watched the 3-night miniseries.
Did you watch the miniseries right after?
No, because it wasn't that good of a book, and I couldn't imagine that the miniseries would be any better.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, let's see how you did. Final answer. So Y is left, IE in the middle, and I is to the right. But lo and behold, actually.
Oh, I just needed to flop the women.
You got the IE.
I got the IE. Yeah, for some reason, like the I and the Y, like that was the main variation with all the other white girls I knew whose names were Christy in the 70s, or in the 80s. For some reason, like the IE tends to be for younger women because that wasn't really an option for us. Like, because I don't know, the creativity with the Kristi got a little bit, like as you went into the 80s and the 90s, got a little bit better.
Well, I mean, like Kristi with a K is pretty creative too.
So yes and no. Like the Kristi, so everybody who's like in their like 40s right now, or maybe even their 50s, their name is Kristi probably because of Kristi Brinkley. So if they have a K, it either is because their mom was Jewish and didn't want to obviously have Christ in the name, or they didn't want to tie their daughter so obviously to a supermodel. But yeah.
Well, you are our favorite Christy Sanders. And thank you again so much for joining me in this conversation and for joining the team, at Happily. We're just so thrilled to be building with you. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to see you in Slack, like within seconds, probably, or another Zoom. It's fun. It's fun. Really. Thank you for coming and chatting with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I loved it. Bye.
Everyone make sure you go and at Kristi and become her friend on LinkedIn. Write to her at Kristi Risti at happily.io. Let her know how excited that we all are that she's here. Let her know whatever problems you want her to fix, because she somehow can fix all of them. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that's that for now. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all have a wonderful week with the promise of a Biden-Harris presidency in 2021. I'm still glowing from all of that. I hope you are too. And I will see you all soon. Bye.